This is Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm Owen James, and this is all your latest Rangers news, guys. We're obviously going to talk over the Dave King story about Dave King obviously calling in for an EGM. We've got more news on that. We're going to talk over the quotes that have come out of what Dave King's had to say. We're going to talk about the open warfare there is between the Park family and Dave King, and also a revelation that was brought by King as well in terms of how John Bennett may have been obstructed and stopped from making the changes and trying to radically overhaul the club and do what he needed to do to turn this club round by certain individuals on the board, as well as obviously apparently as well investors, looking at the club but then being put off by the involvement of certain people on the board. We're going to talk over all of that very shortly. But there's something last night that happened in the Champions League that's just broke my heart, man. Just absolutely broke my heart. Tore me apart inside. Genuinely made me feel just what could have been. It's like when that girl that you were chasing after for so long and she rejected your advances, and then you see her happily married and how gorgeous she still is, and you just think, what could have been? Well, it happened last night. This is what I'm talking about. Yes, guys, that is Abdallah. Abdallah team are scoring the winner. Stade Brest against Sturm Graz in the Champions League last night. A 2-1 win for Brest, their first win in the Champions League, their win coming thanks to Abdallah. God, I miss him. I miss Abdallah. I really do. I mean, he should be playing for us. He really should have had this board, showed any ambition, they showed any kind of, genuinely looking at what was best for the club, then Abdallah will be wearing royal blue this season. He'd be running down the left wing. He'd be scoring those goals, scoring those vital goals, and that could even be us in the Champions League if Abdallah was still here. So gutted for Rangers, gutted for us as fans, gutted myself. I love that boy. But you know what? Wish Abdallah all the best. Absolutely nothing but love for Abdallah. For Abda, all the very best, and I really hope that he goes on to have a successful career and hopefully one day comes back to Ibrox. Really do. So let's get into this business, this boardroom warfare. We've kind of seen that the Park family and Mr. Taylor as well are against Dave King returning. Dave King's ramped up the pressure by calling for an EGM, calling to, the Ibrox hierarchy to let the fans decide what's best for the club. And I think King's doing this because he knows, I think in his heart of hearts, what would happen if this was put to the fans at an EGM. I think the fans would certainly vote in overwhelming to allow Dave King and his nominations to take over the board and boot out this board as it stands at this moment in time. I think Dave King is not, at the end of the day, look, let's get some things into perspective. Dave King is not, a squeaky clean. He is not, the great white hope that everyone says he is, but he is better than what we have currently got. And sometimes you've got to kind of look at it in that aspect. What's better? Allowing him to come in for 2, maybe 3 years, run the club as chairman, stand down and hand it on to someone else who's part of his organization and take it away from the present board. I mean, if you go back to 2012, back to, to the 55, and you go back on from that when King left the board, post 55 and Douglas Park took over, you kind of look at it and you kind of think, well, has the present board done anything that kind of shows that they're good at doing their job? Has the present board done anything that kind of shows that they're able to do their job well? Well, I would argue not. The club team in the club, surely a board's, reason for being, a raison d'etre, to quote Del Boy, is to allow a club to run smoothly, allow a club to win trophies, allow a club to be successful, allow a club to work in an efficient manner, to allow a club to work in a competent manner. Now, can you, on your heart of hearts, if you actually sat and thought about this, say that this present board run this club in a competent fashion? No, they're incompetent. Could you say that this club run this club in an efficient manner? No, they're inefficient. Looking back over the history, managers sacked, rebuild after rebuild after rebuild. We're on our 3rd or 4th rebuild now. not one that's really been a great rebuild either. Disaster decisions over Michael Beale. The way that they replaced Gio with Michael Beale was done the wrong way. The whole situation is just so shabby and so badly, done. I think, you look at the Park family and the role they've played in that. You look at, Taylor and Halstead and others that have played their roles in this. And you look at the present board and you just think it really isn't fit for purpose. And decision after decision after decision just seems to smack of sheer incompetence. We've got the sort of the Australia debacle, the stadium debacle, the manager after manager sack, the failure to capitalise on 55. Player contracts allowed to, just run down, bad decisions on signings, money licensed on ridiculous contracts. All stuff that this board have taken decisions on that has just left Rangers in a position where we're not, financially successful as that lot across the city. It's all kind of just coming apart a little bit. And, John Bennett, once Douglas Park stepped down, took over as chairman, and it now emerges that, that maybe, a man who came in for an awful lot of criticism, for his part of that, maybe that was slightly unfair to some degree. And this is what Dave King had to say about John Bennett. He said, yes, those same faceless people want the chance to do it all again. When John Bennett took over, he tried to turn things around, but had no human or financial resources to support him. So it seems that Dave King is saying that, the present board, the faceless individuals, in that board, the Park family, and others want to allow this to continue. And through John Gilligan, they believe that they can continue to run the club and make decisions. Whereas, the fact that they want a chance to basically repeat history, put the club in a cycle that we're currently in, a cycle of underinvestment, a cycle of undermanagement, a cycle of incompetent decisions, a cycle of just sheer ludicrousness. John Bennett, it seems, tried to do things, from what Dave King's saying, to make a difference for this club, and that was all rejected and turned down. And he wasn't given the backing, in terms of people, maybe meaning the CEO, academy directors, sporting directors, etc., financial resources, the money to give to the managers. Now, Dave King has been criticised slightly for, the remark he's made about the 50 million that people said, well, he's just copying Graham Souness. Well, has anybody ever thought that maybe that Dave King has spoken to people in the know, has spoken to football people that actually know what they're talking about, given the comments that were made by King and by Simon Jordan and by Graham Souness, as regards the present Rangers board having no football people on it, being, in the words of Simon Jordan, childish. Simon Jordan said that he was very unimpressed with the decision-making capabilities of the present board, as was Graham Souness. These are people that understand football. These people that get the game. Simon Jordan, look, I know he's a controversial character, but, has run a football club and, he made mistakes, but has learned from those mistakes. And Graham Souness is a man who loves this club and, had that revolution and changed things around for this football club. Whereas the present board do seem to be completely lacking, absolutely completely and utterly lacking in what they're doing. And I think, Dave King has kind of tried to, and I know some part of this is opportunism from King. I understand that part of this is what could be described as opportunism. But, you can't blame Dave King for wanting to make a difference, to see things done differently. He's talked about outside investment, and, he certainly mentioned in previous comments that, he's got outside investors interested if certain things change on the board. Now, there's substantial reports in a number of sources that, and I'm hearing this from a number of people now, that, that there are people who are interested in actually investing in this club, but are being put off by the Park family, being put off by Mr. Taylor, being put off by a number of individuals on the board. And they don't want those people to have anything to do with this club if they're going to put their money in, because they feel that whatever they do won't actually have a difference, because they won't be given a substantial, say in what happens. They won't be given a substantial influence in the club and won't be able to make the changes that quite clearly are needed. I'll be honest with you, you look at the way this club are being run and you compare it with other big clubs, and I'm not talking about Celtic, I'm talking about, proper big clubs around the world, and it's not unrealistic, I don't think, to compare Rangers to the likes of Ajax, to PSV Eindhoven, to Benfica, to Inter Milan, AC Milan, the top English clubs. And you look at how they're run and the professionalism that they're run is just not even here at this club. It's very amateur hour at this club. And it's interesting to see that fan media are coming out and backing Dave King. Yes, he may not be perfect, but he's certainly better than what we've currently got. And I think as a fan media, we need to get behind him and give him as much support as we can and basically get rid of the present board, because they are not doing anything for this club. They've proved season after season after season they are incapable of taking the right decisions to move this club forward. They are incapable of putting it in a joined up policy when it comes to player recruitment, player contracts, and manager recruitment. It's just failed season after season after season. Now, Dave King spoke to the media, and this is what he had to say. He said, I understand why some influential board members don't want me back. They know from past experience that I would not tolerate board members who are only in it for the jacket and tie and don't actually want to do any real work. If the board can, for once, set aside self-interest and put the supporters first, then I offer a challenge. Now, this is really interesting for me, and I think does echo what a lot of fans actually genuinely feel, that this present board are only in it to be Rangers directors. They're in it for the kudos of being a Rangers director. They're not actually in it for the interests of the club. They're not in it to look after the interests of the fans or the interests of the players. They are purely in it for themselves, to line their own pockets and to have that, kudos of being a Rangers director. Douglas Park, Graham Park, for example. So, I think Dave King is right in that aspect, in what he asserts here, that, there are certain members of this present board that are just in it for the actual title of being Rangers directors. And the fact he wouldn't tolerate that obviously is going to lead to them, blocking that. Turkeys don't vote for Christmas. He says, urgently call an EGM, as I did to get Mike Ashley out, and put yourselves up for re-election. I will in turn put up my nominations, including myself. Now, I think this is highly unlikely, because I think the present board, who are only out for themselves, are only out for self-interest, that genuinely only want to line their own pockets, Mr. Park, for example. And I challenge I challenge Douglas Park. I challenge Graham Park. Come on this podcast, debate me, discuss me. Come on this podcast. You won't, because you haven't got the balls to do it. Genuinely haven't. Okay. One thing, Graham Park, he's got a big stomach, but he hasn't got any big balls on him. At the end of the day, King's right. We do need an EGM. We do need to put these up and let the fans decide. Let the people who actually love this club, the people who actually know what this club means, make the decisions that matter. King went on to say, none of the existing board members who presently protect each other can vote, and neither will I, John Bennett, and significant shareholder George Leatham would also be excluded from voting for obvious reasons. In that way, we can leave it to the supporters for once to decide who they want to run their club. And that is the key statement for me, who they want to run their club. King is, yes, I know he's playing to the gallery, and I get that, and 100% get that. It's very politician-like, isn't it? Playing to the gallery, playing for popularism. It is the way to go. And look, King is doing that, and I get that. But what he's saying, in effect, is not wrong. There are existing board members who can and will only protect themselves. The Park family will protect themselves, etc., etc. My feelings on Douglas Park and his hideous son are just obvious. They need to go from this club. They need to be gone from this club. They are a curse. They are a virus. They are destroying Rangers as a club. And the sooner that family are chased out and got rid of, the better. And I called on X tonight, on Four Lads, on Rangers Review, on CJ Novo, on Heart and Hand, and on The Rabble, the big podcast, the biggest Rangers podcast, to get together and organise protests against this family, to get them out of our club, to back this man. Whether they do it or not, is going to be interesting. But we do need a crusade. We do need a change. Now, it may be that Dave King's not the answer. I'm not saying that he is. Who knows? But something needs to change at the very top of this club. This club is sick. They need gone. They need to be gone sooner rather than later. And this is the way forward. And we need to make these changes. As a fan base, we need to come out. We need to back Dave King on what he's calling for and help him get the change that is needed at this football. As a club, we need a new direction. We need a CEO. We need an academy director, a sporting director. We need a lot of change at this club and a new direction. And King is showing us that we need that new direction and showing us that he has that opportunity to do that. You know, he's talked about money. He's talked about all the right things. And look, yes, he may not have been perfect in the past, but put your hand on your heart. Think, is he better than what we've already got here? Yes. Can he deliver? Yes. He's got a track record of doing that. Let's make these changes. Let's move this club forward, or else we're going to live perennially in their shadow. And by them, I mean that lot across the city. Let's make these changes, guys. As an organisation, as a group, as a fan media, which I am, I back him. I'm going to come out and publicly back Dave King. I back him to make the changes. I call on Four Lads. I call on Rangers Review. I call on Heart and Hand. I call on Rangers Rabble. This is Ibrox, Jersnet, Rangers Journal, another Rangers podcast, Stands of Ibrox, Blue Sea podcast. All of those people come out, publicly back Dave King, and let's work together to get change at this club. Let's work together to put aside our fear of losing our press access, put to one side our fear of the club, and get rid of this board and get a board in that can actually do the job and run this club properly, because this present board couldn't run a bath. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please drop me a like, please drop me a comment, and remember always, we are the people.